And again, the topic today is pet food packaging. Understand what it's really telling you, okay? And many pet parents find pet food packaging very difficult to understand, right? There's all these terms and all these big names and, et cetera. And it is difficult to understand. So we're going to, first, we're going to let you know that pet food labeling is regulated at two levels. Okay, you have the federal regulations that is enforced by the FDA and the Association of American Feed Control Officials, and that is known as AAFCO, AAFCO. All right, so those are two things that you need to know. So let's talk about what's in a name. Let's start with the significance of the name of the product, because this is a key factor in the consumer's decision to buy the product, right? It's got to sound good to you. It's got to sound delicious. And the thing that you need to really know is that there are 4 rules that are defined by the FDA. And so we're going to walk through what these 4 rules are. The first one is what they term the 95% rule. And this applies to products consisting of very few ingredients and therefore have very, very simple names. So if a food was named beef, so it's a beef dog food, but it's named beef, or it's named tuna fish for a cat food, for instance, at least 95% of that product must be the named ingredient, okay? In this case, beef or tuna fish. This isn't counting the added water for processing and any condiments or anything else that they add, right? And the ingredients must be listed in order of predominance by weight in the product. So, for example, the product couldn't be named chicken and salmon entree for cats, or basically chicken and salmon for cats, if there's more salmon than there is chicken, okay? So you have to name the predominant ingredient first. Okay, so to give you an example, let's look at our Paw Treats bag. And these are named, these are freeze-dried beef, sweet potatoes, peas, and carrots. So we happen to put everything that's in the name in the product because they're at such high levels, or the meat source is such high levels. So what you do is you turn it over and you want to look at the ingredient statement. And I know it's kind of small in here, but anyway, and what does the ingredient statement tell you? It's beef, sweet potatoes, peas, and carrots. It doesn't say peas, potatoes, carrots, and beef, right? Because beef is the #1 ingredient in the product. So the ingredient statement is the one thing you really do want to look at, because you really want to know what is actually going in this food. They may name it something kind of interesting or different or whatever, but the ingredient statement is going to tell you exactly what is in this food, okay? So that's for our Paw Treats, which is not a food, it's a treat, but it gives you the example. We'll give you more examples in a moment. Okay, so we've got that 95% rule. Now we're going to talk about their 25% or dinner rule. Okay, so this applies to many canned and dry foods on the market, and just products in general. And it applies if the named ingredients make up at least 25% of the product, but less than 95% of the product. Okay, so in this case, the name must include a qualifying descriptor term. And these terms could be dinner or entree or formula or recipe. There's many different names that are okay and approved by AAFCO, but that's just names a few so you can understand that. And also, each named ingredient must be at least 3% of the total. So if it's named on the front of the bag, there must be at least 3% of it in the total amount of ingredients. So let's take a look. Don't you love technology? Let's take a look at a bag. Okay, I have a bag, of course, of our Paw Treat dog food. And this is our real turkey and sweet potato recipe. Okay, real turkey and sweet potato. So what does that actually mean? Using the 25% rule, because it has the descriptive term recipe, the combination of the named ingredients on here must be 25%. So turkey and sweet potato combined, and at least 3% of the sweet potato. So you know that if we name this sweet potato and turkey, there'd be way more sweet potato, at least 25% of that. But since we name it turkey and sweet potato, there's at least 25% of the turkey and the turkey and sweet potato combined, and at least 3% of the sweet potato. Okay. All right. You can also double check this by turning over the package. All right. And again, the ingredient statement is your friend, although it is written in such small type. Okay. But you can double check this and just read the ingredient statement. And if it says, for instance, since this is turkey and sweet potato, if it mentions peas first, or if it mentions sweet potato first, well, that's not correct because the name isn't correct because that's not what's in the ingredient statement. All right. All right. Then we have another rule, and this is called the 3% rule. And this enables manufacturers to point out the presence of minor ingredients that weren't added in sufficient quantity to merit a dinner claim or an entree claim, right? So if you see the term with cranberries, you know that there's at least 3% of cranberries in that product. With means 3%. This can be confusing though, because so here's a couple of examples. You've got chicken dog food. That contains at least 95% chicken, following these rules, 95, 25, etc. If you say dog food with chicken, it says with chicken. With means there's only 3% of the chicken because of the with. So you see the difference? How things are labeled, what words are on the package make a big difference. And sometimes companies will want to call out certain ingredients. If you have a pet with urinary tract infections, cranberries are your best friend, right? You want to, use a lot of cranberries. So they might want to call out a special burst with cranberries to let you know the cranberries are in there, but they know that you don't know what with means. So you're thinking there's a lot of cranberries in there when in fact there's really not as many as you might think, right? It's kind of interesting, huh? All right, now we're going to get down to another rule. This is our flavor rule. Now, there's no specific percentage required, but the product must contain an amount sufficient to be able to be detected if it is tested. All right. So an example would be if you were to choose a food, they've got pretty packaging, walk over to it on the shelf and it says chicken flavor dog food. Well, my dog likes chicken and the flavor of chicken, right? You might think that's a good one. Let me get that one, right? But if you see the word flavor, you guys, that means that there's usually 1% or less of that named ingredient in the product. So it's important for you to look at what you're buying, and you're going to now start looking at your pet food labels differently. These rules, because they're set by the FDA, also apply to human food. So you're probably going to buy your human food differently as well. All right, so now let's talk about claims. And what do I mean by the word claim? A claim is a statement that's made on a package that tells you what's special or different about that product. A claim can be descriptive about an ingredient. It can, or about the nutrition it provides. So one of the claims, so there's, on our bags, we have claims everywhere. We have over 20 claims on our bag. But one, it will say real turkey right here. Real turkey is the first ingredient. That's a claim. And no poultry byproducts. That's another claim. We also have claims here on the back of the bag, because we have so many. We have high in protein, and we say contains taurine to support heart and eye health. We have a lot of claims on our bags because we put a lot of nutrition into pottery. But that's what I mean by a claim. And you want to pay attention to these claims. This is where the manufacturer adds special ingredients to aid in the health of your pet. So, as I was mentioning before, we have 20 claims. So here's some of our claims. Balanced calcium and phosphorus for bone and tooth health, right? You want them to develop properly. It contains taurine to support heart and eye health. Natural source of DHA supports healthy brain development and overall brain health. Contains omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids for healthy skin and coat. These are essential fatty acids that your your pet needs, okay? A good source of natural glucosamine to help maintain joint health. Another great claim. Contains prebiotics to support a healthy digestive tract. So that gives you an idea of some of what a claim is and what are some of the claims that we use in Pawtree. And you can certainly look on the other bags if you're not a Pawtree consumer. Adding the nutrition needed to make these claims does cost money. So if I'm talking about taurine for heart and eye health, we have to add a certain amount of taurine in order to make that claim. And that has to pass a regulatory exam from our attorneys or from any regulatory attorney, right? So because it costs money, often companies don't make a lot of claims. And you can't just make up a claim, all right? There's research behind every single one of them to understand the nutrients and the amounts needed for each claim. So you will never see anything on our bags that has not been vetted by a regulatory attorney. Now, when formulating our Pawtree food, we looked at the issues that were most important to pet parents when deciding on what claims to make. We looked at issues that they, more often go to the vet for, more often their pets get sick with, etc. And we feel at Pawtree that pet parents should not have to choose what's more important for their pet. Is it heart and eye health? Is that more important than bone and tooth health? Is that more important than a healthy brain? No. A healthy skin and coat, you want them soft, but it means just more than that. It means that they're not going to itch, okay? So, the healthy skin and coat, you're going to see that and you're going to enjoy it yourself, but they're not going to itch. They're going to feel good from the inside out. Good joint health. That's another claim. That's a big, important one, right? And a healthy digestive tract. So there's all of these claims are important, and that's why we put all of these claims on our bags. But with any claim, there comes cost, and a lot of companies just don't put a lot of claims on their bag. In fact, if you're buying in the grocery store or in big box retail, you will see on the front of the bag. On the front of the bag, they're gonna tell you most of their claims on the front of the bag because they're trying to attract you up to that shelf, right? Very few people are going to take that bag off the shelf and turn it over to read other things. So they're going to get whatever claims usually on that front of that bag, okay? So, because they know that that's what you're going to be looking for most. Okay. The next thing we'll talk about is let's see. The next thing we're going to talk about is our guaranteed analysis. Okay, this is interesting as well. So the guaranteed analysis, again, I point you back to our bag. I point you back to the back of the bag. And again, there's a lot of stuff that has to go on these bags. So it's important that you understand what each piece and part is. But a lot of the stuff is in, smaller type so that we can get all this stuff on, right? The guaranteed analysis, that's what I'm pointing to right here. At a minimum, the guaranteed analysis is going to show you the minimum percentages of crude protein and crude fat and the maximum percentages of crude fiber and moisture. All right, so minimum protein and fat, maximum fiber and moisture. So this recipe guarantees 30% crude protein, which means that there's actually more than 30% in there per the formula, okay? But we guarantee a little bit less to make sure that it's always going to meet that claim. Also, you might be saying, well, what is this crude thing? What is this crude thing that she keeps talking about? And the crude term refers to the specific method of testing the product, not to the quality of the nutrient. It's the way we need to do this per AAFCO, per labeling, okay? Guarantees for other nutrients are here as well. So for this product, all right, everything happens during a lunch and learn. Okay, so for this product, we guarantee calcium and phosphorus because we make the claim balanced calcium and phosphorus for bone and tooth health. Taurine, because we make the claim contains taurine to support heart and eye health. DHA is another one that we claim because we make the claim natural source of DHA supports a healthy brain development and overall brain health. Very important, right? Omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, because we make the claim contains omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids for a healthy skin and coat. We also claim glucosamine, right? Because we make the claim a good source of natural glucosamine to help maintain joint health. So it's important to understand how these claims are created. It's important to see what's guaranteed, because if they're guaranteeing something that is affiliated or associated with a claim, okay? So it's really just important to understand what claims are and what a guaranteed analysis is, all right? Now, let's go and move to the ingredient panel. So a couple of things to note here. Again, the ingredients, written kind of small, but you can read them. The first ingredients, or the thing that you need to know about ingredients, is that they are listed in the order of inclusion in the formula in a food. So this one reads turkey and turkey meal and dried peas, dried chickpeas, chicken fat, dried sweet potatoes, etc. And you can read the whole thing, right? Now, another thing to note, because people like to know about, well, what is this meal stuff? So you always want a named meat meal. So we say turkey meal, right? We say salmon meal. So you know that there's turkey in this and there's salmon in this. But so this is, so you know exactly the source of that meal. However, if something says, meat meal, and it does not name the source of that meat, it doesn't say salmon, it doesn't say turkey, it doesn't say chicken, it doesn't say beef, walk away, because you do not know what that actual meat could be. And there's many things that that meat could be that you would not want your BFF eating. So again, just something really, really important for you guys to understand. All right, next, the ingredient statement. So you know that the ingredients are listed in in inclusion order. Ingredients, though, aren't always listed in inclusion order or by how much is in the formula. And there are times where they're listed in a different way. So how do you know that? Because Brooke, you just told me that is listed in the amount of inclusion order. Okay, so this is the deal. When a product has a guaranteed analysis on it, like a food, like treats, the ingredients are listed in order of their inclusion. However, for packages that list active ingredients, which you would not find on a food. So let's just use, here's an example, our Chillax bottle, okay? And Chillax lists active ingredients and then inactive ingredients, okay? So there's no guaranteed analysis on this package, correct? So what happens here is when it has active ingredients, these inactive ingredients are actually listed in alphabetical order, okay? And the inactive ingredients, the thing that you want to focus on here is what's active, because what's active is the important stuff that is going to make this product work, right? Where are we? But the inactive ingredients are important because these Chillax, for instance, or most of our products are chews, and the inactive ingredients are the things I refer to as cookie dough that makes them delicious for your pets to eat. And so the active ingredients are contained inside the cookie dough, and the cookie dough is the inactive ingredients. Again, not in these are in alphabetical order, not by order of inclusion. So if you look at this one and you see brewer's yeast, you might say, gosh, there's an awful lot of brewer's yeast in there, right? No, that's not necessarily the case, because brewer's yeast begins with a B. So it's alphabetical order. Hopefully that is understanding or more understandable. Okay, so let's talk about ingredients for a moment. When you compare two products, even if they both say turkey or salmon, that doesn't mean that they're the same. So if you're comparing two products and each one, the first ingredient says the same thing, turkey, it's not always the same quality of ingredient. You can't tell that because it says that it's turkey, but you just don't know what the specification for that meat of turkey is, right? So think of it this way. In life, you get what you pay for. When you go to a grocery store, this is my best example that I think will help you. You go to a grocery store and you want to buy beef. You can get anything from ground beef to rib roast and anything in between. It's all beef, right? But each cut is different and has a different price tag. It's the same with pet food. So if you just think of it this way, in life, you get what you pay for. And not all things are the same. So if you have a product that says, we'll use again turkey. If you're looking at a brand in the grocery store and you're looking at a brand in high-end pet, or you're looking at poultry, I can assure you that there are different specifications for all the ingredients that are in each product. And that's what makes a product more expensive, because if you're putting better quality stuff in, it's going to be more expensive. Now, a lot of people feed both canned and dry food, especially pet parents, right? So how can you compare canned pet food labels to dry pet food labels? Because canned food labels always look like they're lower in protein than dry food. Also, when comparing a dry food to a canned food, you'll see that the levels of crude protein and other nutrients are much lower for the canned product. This can be explained easily by looking at the moisture content of each product. So canned foods typically contain a range of 78% to 82% moisture. A lot more moisture. Obviously, canned food is very moist, whereas dry food contains only 10 to 12% moisture. So to compare the two, they should be expressed on the same moisture basis. And you can calculate this, but a quick way to remember this is just multiply the guarantees for the canned food by 4. So don't be fooled, because canned food usually has more protein than dry. So I just want to make sure you're not comparing and thinking, canned food isn't as good. Canned food is very good, and especially with cats. Cats need that moisture. All right. All right. Here's our next one, is our nutritional adequacy statement. And this is one of the most important parts of a dog or cat food label. So for us, the nutritional adequacy statement is right here on the bag. And a complete and balanced pet food, all pet food should say that, must be substantiated for nutritional adequacy by one of two ways. The first method is for the pet food to contain ingredients formulated to provide levels of nutrients that meet an established profile. And currently, the AAFCO dog or cat food nutrient profiles are what they need to meet, okay? Now, you have two methods to meet an established nutrient profile, or you can use a feeding trial protocol. So our statement reads, this statement right here, okay, reads, poultry, real turkey, and sweet potato recipe is formulated to meet the nutrient levels established by the AAFCO dog food nutrient profiles for growth and maintenance. This means that the product contains the proper amounts of recognized essential nutrients needed to meet the needs of that healthy animal. The alternative method of substantiating nutritional adequacy is for the product to be tested using the appropriate AAFCO feeding trial protocols. And this is where the food has been fed to dogs or cats under strict guidelines and found to provide proper nutrition. That nutritional adequacy statement would read, animal feeding tests using AAFCO procedures substantiate that the name of the product provides complete and balanced nutrition. So regardless of which method is used, the nutritional adequacy statement also states for which life stages the product is good for. And this is important for you guys to understand as well, because we get a lot of questions on this. Life stages include growth, and growth is for puppies and for kittens. Maintenance is for adult dogs and adult cats, including seniors. All right. And a product that's labeled, this product is intended for intermittent or supplemental feeding only, is not complete and balanced and is not intended for the sole nourishment of an animal. So these would be treats. Treats are not complete and balanced. There's no complete and balanced message on these treats anywhere on this bag. We do say to feed for intermittent use or feeding purposes only, because it's a snack. This is not their full meal. So it's really important that you understand this. And what's interesting is we get questions sometimes because they're like, well, is this good for puppies? Because it doesn't say puppy food on it. That's where it's important to understand what that statement reads and what that statement says, because when it says for growth and maintenance, that's telling you this product is good for both puppies and for adults. We don't have to smack for puppies on the product. You know, we're just not making a claim for puppies, because this can be fed to them throughout their adulthood as well. Okay. All right. Now, another thing that's very important for you guys to understand is our feeding guidelines, anybody's feeding guidelines. And that's this big old chart right here. All right. Feeding guidelines. And feeding guidelines are just that, you guys. They are just guidelines. It's a place to start. These are projected feeding amounts only. And there's lots of factors that can influence food intake for your pets, right? So it's what breed are they? How's their metabolism? What's their daily activity? How old are they? What are their genetics? What environment are you in? Is it cold outside? Is it hot outside? There's many factors. There's many more than those as well, right? So there should be a disclaimer on every bag. Our disclaimer is right here above the feeding guidelines. And it basically tells you that there's, these are just guidelines, and basically you want to feed more or less depending on how your pet is doing on them, et cetera. I will tell you that generally the guidelines on the bag try to cover all contingencies, and therefore may be much more than your pet needs. Okay. At Pawtree, we have a pet profile, and that takes into account many of these measures and gives you a more accurate guideline based on the information you share with us about your pets. But know that on our bags, as well as on most bags, the feeding guidelines are always going to be higher than you actually are going to need to feed. And especially with our food, it's so nutritionally dense. If you are coming from another brand that is not as nutritionally dense, most brands, you're going to find that you're going to feed much less Pawtree food. You're going to need to feed less because your pet is going to be getting the nutrition they need in a less amount of food. So if you're used to feeding, I'm just making up numbers now. If you're used to feeding a cup of food a day to your pet, with Pawtree, it's probably going to be more like a half a cup, because they don't need to eat as much to get the nutrition that they need. Okay, so that's it, you guys. That's some great information to know about how to read and understand pet food